We just had a total eclipse of the sun, so it's appropriate that the group we're going to talk about in this episode is known for their sort of spacey, celestial kind of ideas. In fact, this band created so much incredible music over so many years that we're going to have to break this into 2 episodes. So in this first episode, we're going to look at the music that they created from their formation in 1967 up through 1973. They have sold over 250 million albums worldwide. But there's a big question about this band because we never really have discovered which one is Pink. So you ready to find the story of Pink Floyd? Well then, let's drop the needle. The band started in 1963 in London, and they quickly went through a series of names. They started as the Megadeths, but then they became the Abdabs, then the Screaming Abdabs, then Leonard's Lodgers, then Spectrum 5, and then they kind of settled on the T-Set. But they'd have to change their name one more time before they found success, and boy did they ever. Let's introduce the members of the band that couldn't settle on a name for more than a couple of months. Syd Barrett was their leader. He played guitar and did lead vocals. Nick Mason played drums, Roger Waters was bass and vocals, and Richard White was keyboard and vocals. As I said, they couldn't really settle on a name, but in 1965 they had a few gigs in London, and they were calling themselves the T-Set. And they had got scheduled for a gig, but they had a problem. When they got there, they discovered that there was another band also playing that was called the T-Set. So what are they going to do? On the spot, Syd Barrett christens the band Pink Floyd Sound, which was quickly shortened to Pink Floyd. So if you've ever wondered where the name Pink Floyd came from, it came from 2 blues albums that Syd Barrett owned. One was by an artist called Pink Anderson, and the other was by an artist called Floyd Council. The new band, Pink Floyd, started playing around clubs in London. They didn't have a whole lot of songs in their repertoire, so they decided they would stretch the songs out by long improvisational jams to make the songs longer. And then to add a little more excitement to their presentation, they created a light show that traveled with them, making them a psychedelic band. They increased their repertoire by including songs written by Syd Barrett, and in 1967 they scored a recording contract with EMI Records, home of the Beatles. And they released their first single, which is called Arnold Lane, which was quickly banned by the BBC because it addresses cross-dressing. And we can't have a bit of that in 1967 now, can we? But the single was a hit anyway. It went on to reach number 20 in the UK. They follow this single up with another single called See Emily Play. And this is a bigger hit. It reaches number 6 in the UK. And then in August of 1967, they released their first album, The Piper at the Gates of Dawn. And this has got Syd Barrett's stamp all over it. He wrote all but 3 of the songs. And the songs are kind of divided into long improvisational jam songs and short direct ones. Tracks include Astronomy Donomy, Flaming, Take Up Thy Stethoscope and Walk, Interstellar Overdrive, The Gnome, and The Scarecrow. Now there's an interesting backstory on the song The Scarecrow. The day before they recorded that, they got invited into Studio 2 at EMI, which Abbey Road, where the Beatles were recording bits for Sgt. Pepper. And so Pink Floyd got to sit in as the Beatles were recording Lovely Rita. They got so inspired that the next day, when they went into Studio 3, they cut the song The Scarecrow in one take. Unfortunately, Syd Barrett got really heavily into LSD and started deteriorating very quickly. On stage, he would often just stand there with the guitar around his neck and not play anything. And when they'd appear on TV shows, as was common in the day, to lip sync whatever the song was, Syd would stand there and never open his mouth. It was obvious that something had to change. So in December of 1967, David Gilmour is added to the band as the 5th member to help cover for Syd's deficiencies. The band started work on their second album called A Saucerful of Secrets. But as they were working on it, they had to stop because they got booked for a tour in the U.S. So they went to the U.S., but Syd's condition just continued to get worse. And as a result, many of the gigs got canceled. And so the band kind of limped back to London. With Syd only being peripherally involved in recording this second album, Roger Waters takes over the duties as the lead vocalist and main songwriter. And in fact, as the band is going to play a gig and they are in their van headed to the gig, they make a decision not even to stop and pick Syd up for the gig. Their attitude was, what's the point? Just a couple months later, Syd Barrett leaves the band that he formed. The album, A Saucerful of Secrets, is released. Tracks include Let There Be More Light, Set Controls for the Heart of the Sun, the almost 12-minute long A Saucerful of Secrets, and there's one sole Syd song on the album, Jug Band Blues. The album reaches number 9 in the UK. They then came back to the US for another tour, this time opening for the Soft Machine and The Who. In June of 1969, they released a soundtrack album for the film More. It contains 6 purely instrumental songs, and then there are tracks like Cirrus Minor, The Nile Song, Green is the Color, and A Spanish Piece. All the lead vocals are by David Gilmour. The album reaches number 9 in the UK and number 153 in the US. But just a few months later, they decided to release a double album called Uma Guma. Now, disc 1 is made up of live recordings. Tracks include Astronomy Donomy, Careful with That Axe Eugene, Set Controls for the Heart of the Sun, and A Saucerful of Secrets. The second disc has songs that were written by each one of the band members, solo pieces. One by Gilmour, one by Waters, one by Wright, one by Mason. And some of the tracks are Sisyphus, which is written by Wright, Grantchester Meadows and Several Species of Small Furry Animals Gathered Together in a Cave and Grooving with a Pict, written by Waters. I love that title. The Narrow Way, written by Gilmour, and The Grand Visitor's Garden Party, written by Mason. I think since they were touring in the U.S., Uma Guma became much more popular in the U.S. than in the U.K. It reached number 5 in the U.S., 74 in the U.K. And the cover, front and back of the album, is interesting. The front cover is the last time that the members of Pink Floyd appear on their album covers. And the back cover shows all the gear that they would travel with. And in 1969, I had gone out to UCLA. I talk about this in one of my earlier episodes. And Pink Floyd played on the grass at UCLA. And Uma Guma was the first album of theirs that I had gotten. And I liked it. So I went to see Pink Floyd. And yeah, they had all that equipment that they show on the back cover of the album. Pretty amazing. In October of 1970, they released an album called Atom Heart Mother, and it becomes Pink Floyd's first number 1 selling album. And it's also the first album where they incorporated an orchestra and a choir. Side 1 only has one song, Atom Heart Mother. Side 2 continues the Uma Guma idea with each member writing a song. We have If by Waters, Summer 68 by Wright, Fat Old Sun by Gilmour, and Alan's Psychedelic Breakfast by all 4 members. The album soared in the UK to number 1 and 55 in the US. To support Atom Heart Mother, the band toured extensively. It took over a year for them to get to their next album, which is called Metal, and it's an album without really any clear direction. When they were recording it, each band member recorded their own pieces separately with no idea what the other guys were laying down. And then they tried to mash it all together. Tracks include One of These Days, A Pillow of Winds, Fearless, and side 2 has one song, Echoes. It did well in the UK, going to number 3, but it could only reach number 70 in the US. The band then started work on another soundtrack album for a French film called La Vallée, And the idea was that the songs would be intermixed and fade in and out of the film dialogue. But during the making of the record, the band and the film company had a falling out. So Pink Floyd decided to release the album anyway, and they called it Obscured by Clouds. For Pink Floyd, the songs are relatively short. I like Obscured by Clouds, Burning Bridges, What's the Deal, and Childhood's End. It reaches 6 in the UK and 46 in the US. Then in March of 1973, they stunned the world, releasing what many people refer to as their masterpiece. It certainly is their best-selling album, and it's Dark Side of the Moon. All of the songs are written by Roger Waters. It contains the two singles, Money and Us and Them. I Like Time, Any Color You Like, and Eclipse. Now, there's a couple of interesting urban legends around this album. One of them just happened recently. The story is people were syncing the album so that when the song Eclipse started was when the eclipse reached its totality here. Then the second urban legend is older, and it's a story that if you actually watch the film The Wizard of Oz and start Dark Side of the Moon when the movie starts, the songs actually sync with the movie and make sense all the way through it. Now, I've never tried that, so I can't say whether that's true or not, but each member of Pink Floyd has said, no, they did not do that. That was not their intent. The album soared to #1 in the US, and it stayed on the charts for a stunning 14 years, reached #2 in the UK, and sold over 43 million copies, making it the world's third best-selling album of all time. And Dark Side of the Moon made all of the members of Pink Floyd incredibly crazy wealthy. Now, as usual, I've created a Spotify playlist, and here's the link, and I'll put it in the comments down below as well. You can go there and listen to a lot of the Pink Floyd music that we've just been talking about. Well, that concludes our look at the music of Pink Floyd from 1967 up through 1973. But obviously, they've made a lot more music. So in the next episode, we'll continue. We'll go from 1975 to the current day to see what Pink Floyd is up to. Until then, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the Dark Side of the Moon. Keep it rockin'.
If you liked this episode, hit the like button, and you can also leave me a comment down below, and I'll respond to you. If you subscribe, we'll let you know when future episodes come out.